I think I realized something super crazy. Why Jesus is in the pit. So when he was cast out and he was told to make a deal with the heathens of the land, the mighty ones, and then I wrote about this in the space below, like my last video, but in Ezekiel 30, it talks about how the sword was passed from the king of Egypt to the king of Babylon. And that's why in the book of Revelation, that's why Mystery Babylon has to be destroyed. Because God had broken the arms off of the angel so that he couldn't hold his sword anymore. And then I just read Habakkuk for the first time tonight. And Habakkuk is basically like this complaint. The complaint seems to come from Jesus, and then the Lord's answer is from the Father. And it's explaining why, like what God's plan was, that he was going to raise up this group of people, the hasty and bitter nation, to march through the breadth of the land because they were terrible and dreadful. And then Habakkuk was complaining against it, and he was like, they're not just, and they're like, they worship the works of their hands rather than God. And let's see what else. And then so he was put as a watcher to watch these people. And then woe to him that buildeth a town with blood and established the city by iniquity. And then behold, is it not the Lord of hosts, that the people shall labor in the very fire, and the people shall weary themselves for their very vanity. So the reason why, like this talks about how Jesus died, basically. He was destroyed. When he was cast out of Eden, he was killed. This was talked about in Ezekiel 31. And then he was put in the pit. But he's been collecting people for his army. And the army is in Joel. What's described in Joel, that's the army of the Lord. And it's going to be released on the people. But he made a deal with the people of the land that if they were to die for him, they would be in his army. And then they would conquer Babylon together and take over the world. And so, in order to be in God's army, you have to die for him. So what I said in the last video, where the point of the gospel is to die for something, it's not just something, it's to die for God. Die for God, and then he will make you as gods, just like what was promised in the Garden of Eden. What was promised in the Garden of Eden will come to pass, that you shall be as gods if you join his army and die for him and join his army so that he can take over what was rightfully his. And then he'll reestablish everything on earth the way it was supposed to be. And bring back the new Eden, which is described in the book of Revelation. So that's why he's in the pit. He's been collecting people for his army so he can release it. When he's released from the pit, he and his army are going to come out and conquer the world. And that's why he needed me, because he's been speaking to me. I've been kind of laughing like this whole day, because he's been showing me ways that he's been speaking to me in my whole life, my whole entire life. He's been speaking to me, and okay, when I was younger, I was like this huge romance novel junkie, and there was this particular series that I was like in love with, and it was like the Immortal Highlander series. But the crazy thing is, my favorite book out of all of them featured this character named Adam Black. And Adam Black was this like invisible fairy. No one could see him except the seer. There was this seer, and she could see him. And then when he realized that she could see him, he was like following her around and wouldn't leave her alone, because he knew that she was the only one that could save him. And it was like this crazy romance novel. And I was laughing so hard today because I realized like that was modeled after me. Like, I can see him. I'm the only one who can see him. Who he really is, like what he really looks like. Because I see him all the time. And I don't just see him, but like we have a relationship. Like I can talk to him. He tells me everything. And it's not like in the book, what's described in the book, but it's like in my mind. In my mind, I see him. And so not physically yet, but there have been times in my life where I've woken up in the middle of the night and I've heard voices, and it was in a different language that I couldn't understand. Like, I think it was just last year, actually. I woke up and I could hear one person speaking to another person. I didn't hear, the other person was quiet because I think he knew that I could hear. But I feel like the other person was Jesus, and he was with one of his spies or whatever you want to call them. But yeah, dude, it's like my whole entire life. And every song that I have on my playlist, he speaks to me through. If it's a secular song, I realize it's from him. Like, if it's my playlist, he made it. Like, it was like for me, which is why I need to be on The Voice, because those songs that I'll be singing were like legit made for me to sing. Oh my gosh, I just realized something last night that was so funny. And my daughter has 2 fishes. We got her fishes for Christmas. She named one of them Ariel, and then we got another one, and she named him Michael. And I was laughing so hard because I came across this chapter in Isaiah where it talks about Jerusalem, and the name for Jerusalem is Ariel. And Jesus had called me his Jerusalem. He said, "In you I find my missing piece." And like, there's just so much more crazy stuff too. Like, you don't even know. So crazy. Where is it? Isaiah 19, maybe? No, that's proclamation against Egypt. Where is it? I'll link to it below. Man, I just need to read the entire Bible all over again. Like, he told me to read the whole Bible and I would understand it, and it just makes so much sense. Oh, and another thing is that I was wondering, like, who am I? Who am I really, really, really to him? Because I don't think that I'm just some person. Like, I was thinking I was just a person that he chose to inhabit out of all the people. But no, he called me his angel. And you know how he said he was of the Father when he was on earth, living as Jesus? He said, I am of the Father. And I think I'm of the Mother, the Holy Spirit. Is that right? Because he had told me, like, way in the beginning that I was of the Holy Spirit. And there's 2 candlesticks before the king, right? There's 2 lamps in front of the throne. And the king, he's 2 in 1 because in marriage, the man is sheltering the woman. It's like over the woman. He's the head and she's the body, right? And so it's the same thing with the 2 lampstands. He said that he's the vine and I'm the branch. And he said that, so if you look at the menorah, it's 7 angels, right? So, the 7 angels that are described in the book of Revelation, he says, I hold those in my hand. And that's God the Father. He holds them in his hand, right? But then there's another lamp that's not mentioned until the book of Revelation. Then it's 2 lamps. Because in Zechariah, I noticed it's only 1 lamp, and it's referring to the menorah. But then in Revelation, it's talking about, in Revelations 11, it's talking about 2 lamps. And then towards the end, I'll link to that below, but towards the end, it talks about how there's 7 angels with a bowl of plagues, and then they're girded about their breasts with a girdle, like a golden girdle. I think that's referring to the 7 angels of the Mother, the Holy Spirit, because they're female. And like Jesus told me, he told me I was his partner, his twin, kind of, like we were born at the same time. And if you look at the sun and the moon, those are the first 2 representatives of God the Father, God the Mother. And I think those are the 2 lamps. Oh, and another thing is that when it talks about the sun, I think I mentioned Mickey Mouse in one of my last videos. I don't know if I did or not, but I'm just going to go over it really quickly. So, God is punishing the fallen ones for eternity. But the first reference of eternity is when God said, let there be a when he was talking about the lights in the heaven, Ma'or, that word Ma'or, this is verse 14. It stands for a luminary, and where is it? It says, pretty sure it says eternity on here as one of the examples. Okay, this is interesting. A lampstand of the luminary or light, where this word is sum of 7 sacred lamps on a golden lampstand. And then the luminary of the eyes as a lamp, gives the light of joy to the heart. the luminary of thy face as a lamp in the light in which the secrets are exposed. Oh, but there's another way. Must not be this word then. I think it, oh, here we go. And God made two great lights, that same word, ma'or, one to rule the day, one to rule the night. Where is it? Because it references eternity. That's the first reference of eternity. And then when the sun and moon are darkened, that's a sign that that eternity is over. And I feel like I was right the first time when I said the sun and moon won't be darkened until the two witnesses are destroyed, because they represent the sun and the moon. So it would make sense that if they're dead, if they die, then it's going to be darkened, and that's going to be 3 days of darkness. And that's when and in order to die, you have to be like, Jesus can't collect you into his army until you give up your life for him. And so when I die, I already know I'm going to be sent down to the pit to free people, like free the captives. So I guess that's the key. That's the key of David. And when I forgot to mention this in my last video, but when I was prophesied over on Sunday and told that I was told that I would find out who my grandfather was. And I was like, what do you mean who my grandfather was? I don't know if he's talking about, I don't know if he was talking about like my lineage, or if he was actually talking about like, this is gonna sound crazy, but reincarnation. And I know someone commented earlier on my last video about reincarnation. I didn't mention reincarnation, but you know what? I think that it is biblical, because in Book of Revelation, it ends with saying, everyone who dies in the Lord from now on will have rest. Rest from what? Rest from being reborn? Like, and then when, this is what I had been to this, God was speaking to me through this prophet in Africa a couple weeks ago. And this prophet in Africa, like every time I would have a question about a Bible verse or something, the prophet would immediately start talking about that thing. Like when I started asking questions about the name of God, what the new name of God was, this prophet started talking about like the importance in a name. And then God was talking to me about how he wanted to change my body. And I was like, yeah, you could just change my body, because he had been asking me to like modify it through physical means. But then at this time at that night, he was like, I could just change your body. And I was like, you could. And then the prophet started talking about transfiguration. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is like, the angel of the Lord is in this guy's ear right now, speaking through him to me in code. It was really crazy. And there's something that I wanted to mention, but I totally forgot what it was now. Oh, dang it. I think it's about the Book of Revelation. Oh man, there's just so much stuff. Anyway, I don't want to make this video too long. If I remember what I was going to talk about, then I will describe below. And don't forget, like, in every single video, I use that space below as like a mini blog post. So there's extra stuff in there that you might want to read. Okay, so, you guys, I know it sounds super crazy, but I think that's what's going on here. Like, that's why he's in the pit, to collect this army. And I have to let him out, which means I have to die. But I don't think I'd die until the end of my testimony, which is after 3.5 years. That's so far away. It's, well, we're already halfway through, so. But still, a year and a half, man. Okay. Oh, and that reminds me of something else. I know, he keeps talking to me. So, a couple of days ago, I was trying to go to sleep, and then I was really doubtful. It was before Sunday. I was really doubtful, and I heard this woman, and she was speaking to me, and she said, I heard her in my ear, and she said, 36 months. And I was like, God, who was that? That wasn't you. Like, who was that? And he was like, don't worry about her. I don't know who she is. I was receiving so much revelation today, and then God confused me because I don't know. I can't explain it very well right now, but everything was going, like, I was so thankful. I was like, God, thank you for revealing all this stuff. And then I was confused again, because that's what you guys don't understand, how he really is sneaky. Like, he's super sneaky. But he's not bad. Like, oh my gosh, I wish I could explain it better, but I can't, because you just don't understand, man. You just don't know how crazy it is. He's always testing me, testing. And it's like, why can't you just stop testing me for a little bit and give me what you promised me? Because he's promised me so many things. And like, he promised me the heavenly hands, that everything I put my hand to was going to literally prosper. He said, whenever you're ready, I'm ready. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready now. But no, there's always like a requirement. I have to do exactly as he tells me. Otherwise, what he says is not going to come. What he promised me doesn't come to pass. Because if I don't follow him exactly, then it's like, that's why he has me acting so crazy. When I was in Santa Monica singing on the beach at the top of my lungs for a homeless person, like, that's the sort of stuff that he wants me to do. Just act crazy for him. I'm not crazy, I hope, but he drives me crazy. He literally drives me crazy. I'm like, you're driving me crazy, but I'm still like sane, okay? He makes me crazy. You don't understand. One day I hope you understand, but I really don't think that you will, because this is just meant for me. Because he told me I was set apart from the beginning for this time, which leads me back to my dream, where I had this dream, and I describe it in this video. I'll link to it below. But we were all lined up in heaven in couples, and he was next to me. I didn't know it was him until he told me. He was like, that was me. It was Jesus. But yeah, like I said, Jesus isn't his real name. He came in the name of his Father, of the Father. But I think that story of the father and the mother is a reflection of his story. Because I kept asking God, like, which tree am I? Which tree am I? The tree of knowledge, or am I the tree of life? One of them was completely dedicated to God, was consecrated. That's why he wasn't supposed to be touched. I think that was Michael. He was the tree of knowledge. He wasn't supposed to be touched because he was dedicated completely to God. And I think it's because the mother is super, super possessive and jealous, because that's how I am. Like, you don't understand. I'm super jealous. I don't want to be like, I won't share him. I will not. And I think that was why he was kicked out of heaven, because he let Adam and Eve partake of him, and I got super jealous, and I divorced him, and I kicked him out. when he calls me Michael, I wonder if Michael is a woman's name. I wonder if the Bible was changed so that the warrior angel. No, I think I'm mistaken. That was one of the things that was confusing me. I was like, what if the warrior angel is really a woman? That would be hilarious. Okay, anyway, this video is a little too long, but yeah, obviously I'm still figuring things out, so I'm still in that school of revelation, but it's coming. It's like coming. It's coming quicker and quicker. Okay. Anyway, good night.